Welcome to Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson, the podcast where we head down the road of the supernatural and beyond. So, sit back and hold on as we take a ride together to what lies in the unknown and beyond the veil. Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson presents Pat Benincasa in Creating Understanding Through Art.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson. Me, Daniel Jackson. And today we have Pat Benincasa. She is an award-winning artist. What kind of art is it that you do, Pat? What is it that you do? And let everybody know your everything. What is it?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, Daniel, thank you for having me on today. I'm very excited to be here. And boy, when asking what do I do as an artist, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, good luck. Okay. I think the best way to answer that is to give a frame of reference. I always follow the idea. And what that means, when I started as a younger artist, I was drawing all the time. And when I moved, now I was in Detroit, and then I moved to Minneapolis, and I wanted to know how to paint. So I started painting. I taught myself how to paint.
Oh, cool.
And my gosh, oil painting. And after about 4 or 5 years, I was represented by a gallery. And the paintings were about, I would take Persian rugs and break down the geometry because they were so beautiful, and rearrange them, make my paintings about that. And then I was doing a painting one day, and I was using all these glazings. And glazing is like polyurethane for anybody who's done woodwork or varnish. So I would layer it 20, 30 layers of glaze. And I was talking to a friend, came over to my studio, and I looked at them, looking at the painting. I said, one of these days, I'm going to build the damn thing out of glaze. Whoa! Talk about seraphim and angels opening the sky mentally.
Yeah, where did that come from, right?
Well, I always ask that. And
I know where it comes from.
architects call glass glaze. And it dawned on me, I'm trying to make something that is opaque and not see-through. I was trying to make it see-through.
Right.
So immediately I boxed up all the painting equipment. I called the glass company and had them deliver 2 8-foot by 3-foot glass sheets, 5/8 inch thick, and they delivered it. And so they brought them into the studio, and I have them leaning on the wall, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is glass. Yeah. And then I thought, yeah, now what the hell am I going to do?
Right. You hope it doesn't break, whoops, slip and fall. Oh, there goes my glass. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, okay, I wanted the glass. So like any artist knows, you always start from point zero throughout your artistic career. You're learning new materials, new ways of making things. You always start with the beginner mind. You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to stay in a rut, you really have to kind of jump in there.
Yeah, you got to explore. Yeah.
So long story short, I started painting on the glass. I started sanding the glass. And then there was this competition, a national competition to design a skylight for the new Minnesota Judicial Center. I live in St. Paul. So I thought, oh, that would be a great way to accelerate my learning curve in the glass.
Sure.
I'm going to do that.
Got to figure it out.
So I ended up, very long story short, I experimented, I was working, and I ended up being selected for this project.
As you said in the beginning of your story, you had only been doing this for 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden you are now being represented by a gallery, which was, when people get into something, it usually takes a lot longer time to do that, especially to be represented by a gallery. So this was either within you or it was brought to you very quickly. Would you say yes? Or?
I would say that I was putting in 10, 12-hour days in the studio. I mean, when I go at something, it's like morning, noon, and night. And so I think that probably was helpful to accelerating my learning curve. But I also, okay, here we go. I also know that I don't do anything by myself. I my beloved ancestors are always with me. They're
Right.
always with me. They're always guiding me. And so the skylight that I had proposed was 3-dimensional, and skylights up until that time were flat.
Right, flat.
And so I detest flat windows. I hate them. They drive me nuts. The windows, like the earth, were once thought to be flat. That's my attitude.
Right.
Architects can spend all this time on beautiful facades and building materials, but the windows are always flat. Okay, I'm going off here. I'm going to come back.
No, that's fine. Go.
So I realized, and I had also researched the committee that was selecting for this art, and the architect had his heart set on a guy that was famous for doing judicial skylights. So, and I was going through a divorce it was the worst time of my life. But then I thought, I don't know, it came to me that if I'm going to go after this, I can't be afraid.
Right.
I cannot be afraid. Either I go for a broke or I shut the hell up. I mean, I had that conversation with myself. So I emptied out my savings account and built a 6-foot by 7-foot wood replica of the interior of where this skylight was going to go. And then I built a 3-foot dimensional model, slipped it into this beautiful replica of the building, and then photographed it in different light conditions.
So you went all in.
Well, something like that, Daniel, it's not for the faint of heart. Either you're in it or you're not.
Or you're not, right? You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
No. And I told myself, you're not going to play it safe. So if I could make peace that if they didn't select me, it wasn't because I didn't try my best.
Right.
And I could sleep at night knowing that. And so.
But were you sleeping at night?
Yeah. So the idea of making a 3-dimensional skylight was something that had never been done before. And it was just, colored glass, tinted glass, art glass overlays that when the sun travels east to west, it's the sun doing the work. It's the atmosphere mixing the colors.
Right.
And then they had these columns flanking it. So the times of day would act like a sundial.
Right. Coming in,
my
beam
God.
the sun. Yeah.
Yeah, when it traveled. So for about 10 years, I worked with glass. I did a 3-dimensional chapel window that actually punched out into real space.
Wow.
And so, and that came about because I don't like the idea that you have to go to a place for it to be sacred. I think the divine is in all of us.
Yeah, the sacred is everything. As I always tell everyone, all is one is all. Correct?
Exactly. So I designed this window. It was a 14-foot by 8-foot window in a new chapel. And I saw it. I saw a 10-foot glass cross perched on limestone boulders with the glass going out from the building. And above, because this was a Catholic school, I used the Gospel of Matthew when he talks about these storm clouds forming overhead. So I built glass overlays of pale blues and purples cast down on this, it was like a sculpture window, but it was functional. And, so yeah, I got to build that. And so I love
it. Just that idea, just as soon as you got the idea to do at this place, you got the idea, just boom.
Well, that's an interesting story, Daniel. I was artist in residence at this Catholic high school, and they had built this new chapel, and the president was showing me the new chapel, and he turned to me and said, Pat, outside that chapel, we're going to have a 10-foot steel cross. And I looked at him and said, Joe,
is that it?
Are you kidding me? Who the hell wants to look at a steel cross in front? No. What you need, Joe, is a 10-foot glass cross perched on limestone boulders with glass clouds overhead punching out in real space. I heard it come out of my mouth. And he looked at me and I looked at him, and inside my head, I'm hearing, what is coming out of your mouth?
And it's like you're in a separate place listening to what's coming out of your mouth.
Oh, I'm listening. And okay, show me. I said, okay, I'll do that. I went back to my studio. I walked in. I thought, now what are you going to do? Where do you come up? But then I grabbed the hot glue gun And some people do drawing sketches. I do 3D sketches. So I grabbed glass pieces. I went outside and grabbed up rocks, and I built the window with a hot glue gun, the rocks, the glass, and there it was. And it really didn't change much into the real piece. So when I get hits like that, as a younger artist, I would argue with it. Now,
Right.
not now. I know.
Right, you got to figure out how you just came up with that.
Exactly. And I know it's a gift from the universe. It's a gift from my ancestors. So I just yield to the idea and I'll follow it.
Yeah. It's a message coming through and you're the conduit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why.
How long did it take to build something like that 10 foot tall? I mean,
well, that piece.
It can't be an easy task.
Well, it was multi-layered in that there were 34 pieces of cut angled glass, and I worked with Anderson Window. They had never made art glass like,
cool.
Pale color glass,
sure,
functioning windows. So I blueprinted everything, generated architectural drawings, built the model, worked with the steel company. It took them about 2 weeks to fabricate the steel structure.
Right.
And I gave him my model.
Yeah, because I was going to say it's got to have some type of bracing as well, so that the glass won't fall over or break or something like that. It's got to be pretty thick, I'm sure, too.
Oh, good point. I brought in a structural engineer.
Yeah.
And I found this guy that was a structural engineer. He was in a magazine article because he had 3-dimensional railroad tracks in his house, like he designed. Yeah.
Cool.
So I called the guy up and I told him about the article. I said, whoa, how would you like to design a chapel window that punches out in real space? The universe gives us the idea. Right. But I also think if we look, we find the people to help bring it out. That's an idea that not one person does. I worked with these steel guys. Oh my God, are those guys talented? And the window guys. I mean, you work with a variety of people.
Yeah, and you find out how talented they are while doing these types of projects, whereas opposed to just building a home or building a building, we just see square things all day long. But they know how to manipulate, because sometimes they have to do something where they got to make a custom piece or something like that to fit something that's,
Yeah. And they jump at that. Those guys like doing.
Why not? Yeah, something different than just a square building.
It gives them a chance to really use their creative gifts.
Yes. Yeah, and so in your mind, where do these gifts come from?
Oh, for me, it comes from my ancestors.
Yeah.
They're with me 24/7. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things that I talk about with people. Then when they talk about spirit and they want to know where spirit's at and stuff like that, I said, just look around. I said, you don't have to go to a haunted house or something like that or anything. Spirits are around us 24/7. It just depends. Some of them want to be seen. A lot of them don't. So, but the ones who do want to be seen also want to sometimes communicate with us too. And why are they doing that per se? Because they're trying to help us to get through our lives the easiest way, the best way that we can, the most productive way that we can for ourselves, so that we can get back home and not have to come back here again. So
that's a beautiful way of putting it. You are here to help.
I see. I don't just I know a lot of mediums get messages and stuff like that. I don't just do that. I see spirit 24/7. It never turns off. It never goes away. So I don't just see people though either. I see dogs, cats, horses, cows, fish.
Oh, nice.
Everything. I see other beings from other worlds, because if people think this is the only place with people in it, not even close. So, I see them all the time, and they're always sometimes. I mean, there are some negative energies out there, and I stay away from those. But the positive ones are always trying to help us. They're trying to help us to be better people, and not just help us be better people, but for us to help other people to be better people. And when we do that, we're helping ourselves at the same time. So, we're here to work together. I mean, if that wasn't the truth, then why is there 7.5 billion of us? So, But
I think you bring up a beautiful point. I think it's the legacy of being, how we be in the world.
Yes,
and the kind of difference we make. I mean, it's not enough just to be. It's like, how do we touch lives? How how do we make this a better place? And right now, Lord knows this world needs help.
We're not doing very well. Yeah.
So, this is the time
to
for
get
people.
together, to stop segregating ourselves from ourselves and start getting together, to know the differences between us are not really that different, and we need to start working together, because
Yeah.
that's why we're here. We're here to be together. I know the president, that guy, said, we're all in this together because of COVID, but no, we've always all been in this together. We just haven't figured that out yet. We have to let go of all that pain and anger, and I hate you because you look like this, and you hate me because I look like this, or the whole political crap. I hate you because you're red. You hate me because I'm blue.
I know.
Left wing, right wing, all on the same bird. But
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, we need to come together as people.
Yes.
So first question here. You have it right here in your talking points. It says, making art. Is this art? Is the artist alone? And your answer is?
I can't speak for other artists, so I will only
But for
speak
yourself?
for myself. Yes.
Do you feel there's a presence in the room when you're actually, this is happening, this is going on?
Boy, I wish I was like mediums that could see this, or actually get to grab it, to have, I don't have those gifts, but what happens is,
do you want me to tell you about the guy that's standing behind you, or what?
Is there someone?
Yeah, there's a guy standing behind you. He's got that 70s kind of looking hair where it's long. He's got on glasses. He's got like a goatee like I do, but he has long hair, and it's kind of like brownish with a little bit of gray mixed into it.
Huh. Okay. Well, thank you.
His name's John. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe here to help you. Maybe says he's an artist. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I see them everywhere, but he's not the only one around, but go ahead.
Daniel, I got to tell you, when you're talking to someone and they're looking over your shoulder, either you think you have dandruff or something on your shoulder. And
that's not the only time they're looking at you, Pat. They're around us 24/7. They see, hear, feel they're around us. They see us doing everything, no matter what you're doing. When you wake up and do your daily routine, and you get ready for work, if you go to work and do your job, and maybe you don't do your job because you're a lazy piece of crap, whatever, or you're doing your job, and you come home and you have some dinner and watch some TV and go to sleep, and you wake up and do it all over again. They're around us 24/7. They pay attention to what we do, but they don't always really, some of them care and some of them just don't, because where they are right now, they're living a life that's uninterrupted. So they want to continue doing that, but some of them do care enough to try to help us. So they try to bring us signs, or they literally talk to us into where you hear a voice. It's in your head, and what we would call that is telepathy. That's the way that they talk to each other and speak to each other. So, but that's the original way that we talk to each other too, and we're back home at on the other side. So, and that's why we're able to do it. But yeah, they bring us messages all the time, and sometimes it's just a presence where you're getting a feeling within you because they are around you, because they do the same thing that you do, and they are giving you this energy that's helping you to be more involved in what you're doing. So we just don't pick up on it all. We get the feelings, and we get like, I'm so enthusiastic right now about doing this right now, and I can't figure out why. It's because their energy is coming through and able to get you to do this because they want you to.
Maybe you've answered the question you asked me.
I don't want to do that. I want you to answer.
But I think you're giving voice to the idea that I may not see them, but when I'm in the studio working, or they're with me all the time, but let's say I'm working on something, I'm so in the zone, and these thoughts start coming to me in ways that I would never approach something.
Correct.
And I know they're cooking, and I yield. I'm saying, okay.
Yeah.
But as a younger artist, I would start by saying, I'm going to make this painting. It's going to be about X, Y, and Z. So I'm going at it every day, but the painting's not letting me in until maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. Then all of a sudden, the painting opens up and I see where it wants to go. Right. And when that started happening, when I approach a work of art,
though, right? What is that's the question, is what is it and how did it get there, correct?
I would say the question for me is, what do you want to be? Guide me.
Right.
What is it that you want me to do?
Right.
That's how I approach a work of art, a new idea. What is it that help me form this? You
Do
gave me
you
the
almost get
idea.
into that feeling that maybe sometimes you could actually, it would just flow so evenly that you almost could close your eyes and it would just go anyway?
I don't flow that easily. I get episodic moments. I get those pieces of, where time just stops and I'm in that zone.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Fluidity.
then I look out my studio window and think, Jesus, it's night.
What happened? Where'd everything go?
You
Yeah.
know,
Almost
but
then, almost to, so almost, or not almost, but that same type of feeling you would get for people who are meditating. It just,
oh yes, yeah. If you're meditating, or I think runners talk about it, they get into a zone, so they don't even know that they've run like 20 miles because they're in
right.
that place. But I think dancers, anybody who really loves their work or are engrossed and
Yeah, like, artists.
artists, yeah, yeah, artists. But the reason I'm saying other people, Daniel, is that artists do not have a corner on that, and I want to make that clear.
Oh no, it's it can be everybody, it
Yes,
just,
yeah,
you just have to be able to let it happen.
hmm
Open yourself up to letting it happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Not everybody can, not everybody wants to, but some people do. And it would be better if we could all just learn to do that and get away from the distractions of this world and get back into what we're supposed to be doing, which is, having these types of feelings, taking care of each other, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So here's another question. What ideas do you know that you should be following, and are there other ideas that that are just you're not going to be able to accomplish, even if you try them, and then how long does it take for you to figure out that, okay, this is not going where I think it needed to go?
Oh, those are loaded questions.
I know, right? I'm a loaded
Good
person.
questions. Um, when I get a hit for an idea or a body of work, I'm not the kind of artist that will walk up to the canvas and feel inspired by the moment and everything's loosey goosey and I'm creative. I'm not that way.
Right.
I get this idea and I start researching the hell out of everything about it
Good
as
for
much
you.
as I can.
Yeah.
I have a body of work on sheet metal. They're sheet metal paintings of demolished work sites. So when I see a work site like the blast furnaces, the steel yards,
Yeah.
I'll study that I'll go through all these photographs from the time it was built, anything that I can find, and just study it and the geography and the place and anything I can read about it in old newspaper, everything I want to know before I start that painting. And
Right.
those 3D paintings, I build them with wood on top of the paintings with paint, and they actually come off the surface. I told you I don't like flat. I save
get
my
that.
so
Do you have a flat
that
wall behind you?
idea,
Not really.
well, kinda.
Kind of.
So I get this idea, and all of a sudden, what I start, like demolished work sites, steel yards, factories. But then these ideas start coming at me at breakneck speed, but also because I'm working hard and researching. I think it's a duet between, I've always thought it to like, okay, universe, you gave me the idea. You sure as hell better help me now flesh this out. Come on.
Right.
So I think that's called a prayer or a
Yeah, I
temper.
mean, you're asking for, you're just asking for a little bit of help. I mean,
A lot of help.
yeah, yeah, a lot of. So I have a question for you as being an artist, because I have a friend who was a bricklayer for a long time, and every time I would be with him, he would say, "Look at this building. Look at the way they did these little joints here and all this stuff." And he noticed all the nuances and look how beautifully they put this. So when what would you consider? I mean, because a long time ago, back in the 1800s, late 1800s, when they were really get into construction of buildings and stuff like that, it's like, especially like large churches and things like
Oh,
that.
yes.
It just seems like they put so much more into the creativity of of building those buildings instead of just building a square building, as opposed to today. Doesn't seem It seems like they've let go of that idea. So, uh, although I have seen some structures in different countries where they make a whole building look like it's one big giant window, or glass, and it's all moving certain ways. But regular other buildings, I mean, they're just kind of boring. So, what would you say that they were more creative back then than they are now, or would you say it's just not a priority to do that now?
Well, I would answer you a little bit differently, Daniel. I would say that in the from the 1100s to maybe the 1600s, when cathedrals were built, they were usually in places where everyone shared the same religion. Okay.
Correct.
So the stained glass windows was like the liturgy of the laity. It was, people could look at those windows and see the story in beautiful color,
Right.
straightforward. And so everything was an act of faith. It was something to be built as if the making of it was the prayer of it.
Right.
I mean, that was the culture of the time. And specifically when I look at Italy, because, my parents are born in Italy and that's my background. When you look at those cathedrals, the Milano Cathedral or the Florence, when you look at the cathedrals and the Duomo in Florence, they tied that in with their beliefs. Now, if
they made it as though when you're about to walk into this building, you're looking at the building and going, "Wow, I'm about to walk into someplace really cool."
You were walking into a three-dimensional prayer.
Yes,
it was three-dimensional prayer.
They got a sense of feeling from that building.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's breathtaking.
Yeah.
If you fast forward today, well, we have building codes, we have standards.
Whoopsie.
The Uniform Building Code, the 2 books for the UBC, how wide can a walkway be? How big can the windows be? What is the ceiling clearance? What is a door clearance?
Yeah, we
live in a world where the safety is first and foremost. And within those constraints, people are designing churches, synagogues, temples, and other buildings based on what is expected of safety features. And that's not to say their hands are tied.
Right.
So are people more creative now than then? I think it's a different type of creativity.
Yeah.
We're not all the same belief systems. We're very different now. The cultures are, mixed with all sorts of different types of peoples, race, gender, ethnicities.
Yeah.
So the world is changing to reflect that. So I think it's a different type of creativity that responds to the need.
Sure. Let me see. What's this? It's let's be honest and ask the question: do artists make their own work alone? Do you just kind of ties into that same question before? Do you feel that they actually are alone, or do you feel that they are actually receiving messages in order to, like, there are stories that not that he was an artist, but he sort of was. Nikola Tesla, he created these things and these all kinds of stuff that were going to help us, and people say that he was actually getting messages, and that's where he was coming up with these creative ideas for things. He wasn't just doing it alone. So do you believe that that's what's taking place?
I think you're asking a bigger question. Where does inspiration come from?
Correct.
What is inspiration? And so does the artist act alone? I want to back that question up a little bit. So
okay, back it up.
In the 15th century, there's this guy, Giorgio Vasari. And Vasari writes the first PR for artists ever done. Up until that time, artists were just artisans and craftsmen. All of a sudden, Giorgio comes along and he says, whoa, look at Michelangelo. He is touched by the divine. He is divine genius. Leonardo, Raffaello, and so he writes these stories that they are touched by the divine. And wow, I mean, that whole notion of lone genius, divinely inspired artist started there. Yeah. And it was incredible. And I thank Giorgio for at least putting artists in a different category of their work. And that was also, the humanistic movement and the Renaissance was well underway. So this whole thing about artists being touched with genius. And I have to say, usually they were male artists. I mean, for a long time,
Sure.
up until
Sure.
very recently, Daniel.
Yeah.
So,
Hell yeah.
yeah,
No disrespect intended, but yes, that was the unfortunate part that
that was the
only
truth.
men could do these things.
In
Okay,
fact, when
whatever.
I was carried in the 80s, my gallery, they had 18 artists, 2 were women. I was one of them. So this
Right.
is something that it's very slow to go away. So
Yeah.
coming back to that narrative of lone genius, that they don't want to be bothered with people or the world. They're just going to sit in Mount Genius and get these ideas and be downloaded.
Right.
That was deeply embedded. And I think women approach art making, a lot of women approach it maybe a little differently. I can say for myself, I don't see anybody isolated on Mount Genius. We're human beings. We're
Right.
connected. And
Yeah.
so inspiration can come in forms of being around people, research, works that have been done before. Oh my God. Inspiration comes from a gazillion different places.
Yeah.
So does the artist make art alone? I can tell you this artist doesn't.
Yeah, I try to tell people all the time that we are all divinely connected, but just not everybody listens. That's all.
Exactly.
They need to learn to listen, and then not just listen, but also like what you do. You get the idea, you listen, and then you follow through. And not everyone seems to do that as well, but at least you do. That's a good thing. In the same vein of that question, do you believe that the artists are channeling these messages? I get channeled messages all the time. I used to do channeling with other mediums as well. I would sit and we would clear out our minds and then hold hands and then.
Mhm.
But with me, every time I did it with someone, that as soon as I held their hands, it looked like they got shocked with electricity, and because the energy was coming through. And then they would speak, and then every time they would speak, you could tell it wasn't their voice. It wasn't the same words that they used, and that's the way it would happen now. And I still get those types of messages. I will do them with my wife. She's a strong empath. I can't do it with regular people. I try to do it with my sister one time, and when I did, she went into convulsions and passed out. So,
Oh no.
so like when I do readings for people, when I want to see who's with them, I touch their hand, but I only touch one. Some people go, "Oh," I said, "No, don't do that." So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I get channeled messages all the time, and I get messages every day, all day. But if it's something real, super duper specific, it's going on. It's usually something about the world. Then they'll alert me to do that with my wife, and then a message will come through. So do you believe that's what's happening to you, that you're getting a channeled message when you get these ideas?
Channel, you've described it, is a specific phenomenon, almost like you're being downloaded with information.
Correcto.
Okay. All I know is I get these thoughts. I don't know if I'm being downloaded or not. They just pop in my head.
I
And
can tell you how you actually are being downloaded, and you don't even realize it.
What does that mean?
When you walk around and all of a sudden you get that real long whistle in your ears.
A what?
Whistle. People walk around, all of a sudden, you get that whistle, that humming in your ear, and like, and all of a sudden it goes away. That's actually a message that's being downloaded into your soul, and then you wake up and now you have a new thing.
I don't think I've ever had that happen in my
You don't get whistling in your ears?
Oh,
Really? Wow.
no,
Those
I've never
people-
had that.
People, you just walk around, all of a sudden you like with a dog whistle, or dogs can only hear this whistle, where people get whistling in their ears, and it comes in for a moment and then it stops. I hear other people tell me they get that all the time. I get that all the time, and my wife gets it all the time. But
No, I've never had that happen.
oh, really? Wow.
Huh. Now,
Bummer for you.
I want to go around now trying to hear the whistling.
Oh, it'll just come in. It'll just come in like and then it fades away, and that's what it is. It's a message that's being told to your soul, and then you wake up with new information. Or you might be getting it. I mean, there are other different ways to get those messages. Sometimes they bring us messages within our sleep or within our dreams, because at that moment when you're sleeping and dreaming, that's when your your mind has settled enough to allow these things to come in, and then they come in as what we would call dreams, but they're actually messages being brought to us. And some people write them down, and after a couple times of writing it down, they see that makes sense. So that's
Hmm.
how they bring us messages all the time. So they do
I,
visit.
I could tell you that the only different thing that I I figured out very late in life is that when I meditate, I see pictures. Okay. So I
Sure.
said to a friend of mine, well, when you meditate, you see all those pictures, right? And they looked at me and they said, what? I said, well, I always see this eye and I see irises and I see all sorts of things. And until
They
I
bring
go,
me
oh
messages in video and in cartoon form. I mean, I close my eyes and a video just starts playing. Sometimes I'll be out and about, like with my wife. We were at Walmart, and she went into the bathroom. I sat there on a bench. I closed my eyes, and a message had already been playing. I just closed my eyes, and it was a video that was going on, and I just
huh,
watched it. Yeah, but that's the way it happens for me, or in cartoon form. That's how
huh.
that's how I got to do my book that I wrote. That I closed my eyes in meditation, and all of a sudden they showed me a cartoon of a man who looked similar to me, but was wearing this like brown robe, and he was
Yeah.
writing on scrolls. And when I'm in meditation, I can talk just like I am now, and then they touch me for answers or tell me something as I'm
Whoa.
watching. I said, "Oh, it looks like he's writing down something down." I got touched for yes. I get my yeses across my forehead like that. When I get a no, it feels like a tear running down my face.
For more information about Pat, please visit her website listed in the description. And also be sure to tune in to her podcast, Fill to Capacity, also listed in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson.